Hello, welcome to One of the Force of Stars podcast. My name's Phil, of course, and welcome back to the show. I'm joined, as usual, by Dave and George for our Clone Wars breakdown. Good evening, gentlemen.
Hello.
Good evening.
Of course, we're now back for the last part of the Bad Batch arc. So this is Unfinished Business, episode 4. The animatic, of course, this was done a while ago. It's the last one before we get our all new episode. We've seen nothing before. Of course, I've seen the animatic before, as we going back as we have done the last few episodes. Dave saw it a long time ago. George had never seen it. So before we crack into all of the finer details, George, I want to give you specifically first. What was your initial reaction watching this episode?
I really enjoyed it. It was a beautiful Friday morning, working from home, as it is indefinitely now. So there's a quick reminder, everyone. Stay safe, don't cough on people, stock up on toilet roll, whatever you need to do it. No, the episode, I mean, I've kind of voiced this to you guys before. I'm not the biggest fan of the first three. I'm not sitting there moaning, shouting, and crying like some. As an arc, it just hadn't gripped me, but I did always say I want to wait till episode 4. And I also know that, this was written 8 years ago, probably, maybe longer. So... I was very excited for the 4th one to see how the arc ties together, knowing this is the sort of the pre-finale arc, I guess we can say. And I really enjoyed it. I thought it had a lot of good action, good character moments. It put things in the right direction for where we are in terms of getting to episode 3, that's to me the most important thing about this series of Clone Wars. Not just that it's ending, but you can't just click your fingers and be at the start of episode 3. You need to naturally have got there, and I feel this episode took a massive way in getting you there. We'll obviously discuss it, but you had the ending of a kind of minor villain character who, in canon terms, would have been in episode 3 had he been alive. You've got Anakin moments. You've got nice story arcs tying Echo away with the Bad Batch. Leaving you in a process of, okay, how many arcs do we need to tie up before we get to the end? Not many now. So I really enjoyed this episode, and I thought it kind of tied this in a neat little bow.
Indeed, Dave?
Out of the 4 episodes, by far my favourite. I love that it tied up the story. I love the Anakin thing we're going to get into in a little bit without needing to say anything further from them, which over the next 2 arcs, I wouldn't expect them to show up.
It's like with the previous episode with episode 4, second episode with that Padme edition. I noticed the change in this episode as well. It's something we'll talk about later on in the show. However, no, really enjoyed this episode. It felt like it tied it together nice and neatly. And when you watch all 4 finally as a finished arc, I feel the middle 2 episodes no longer drag. I feel it's finally one. I mean, you could have shortened up slightly, I guess, but I think finally it's kind of come together one big picture. And I think, George, did you actually watch all 4 back to back like you said you would, or did you not get to the end?
I was going to today, and then I chose to go to the cinema instead. But I am very curious to do it because 4 to me had enough of an impact where I thought, okay, I don't need to rewatch these. If I hadn't liked 4, I think I definitely would have rewatched the 4 together. But because I was quite sort of comfortable with how 4 finished, I will go back and watch it at some point. I didn't get a chance this weekend. But I'm also curious to see it again as one big picture. And, obviously I've seen each episode once. When we were doing Mandalorian, I would see it twice before each episode. So I haven't had that take it in, rewatch it for a second time yet, which is going to be intriguing. I don't think that's important to cartoons as it is to live action, not to sort of, be making dig at cartoons. It's just the 8 episodes of Mandalorian versus a 100 episode plus series. And no, so I haven't watched it. I will rewatch it. But I'm curious, maybe I shall wait until Disney Plus is on my TV screen at home rather than setting the laptop up, because I don't mind streaming it onto my telly, but I'm rather just sit back with my TV and take it all in without having to sit there on a laptop on one hand moving the track.
Yeah, for sure.
This episode to me felt a lot more like old Clone Wars as well. Getting the full action in of also the Obi-Wan and Mace Windu story as well felt a much fuller episode. So it did feel much more like the old episodes did for me.
Yeah, indeed. And it's one of those things when it comes down to this episode as well, it does have to move the story along, both in terms of the ending, but also, as you said, tie in Mace Windu and Obi-Wan as well. Sorry, George, you're about to say something.
I was going to ask about Mace Windu and Obi-Wan. In the trailers, they hyped up their massive action scene, and obviously, well, you guys probably know what's happening, but I didn't. Was there more to the Obi-Wan and Windu stuff than we were meant to know, or is it teeing up anything in the next few episodes, do we think?
No, it's if anything, it's just getting us ready for what happens in episode 3 in terms of their individual arcs and where they end up, and of course with Obi-Wan having to go to Pal and things like that as well. It kind of, there's no additional. It's just what we get in the episode itself. However, as I said, the introduction to the episode and the ending of the episode are the different factors. Do we want to jump into the differences before we go to anything else, or what do we want to do next?
I hadn't remembered there was one at the start. The finish was obviously so blatant, it changed that completely, but I don't remember the start of it.
Indeed. So basically, when the episode starts up, we have our usual voiceover. However, the voiceover has been changed for the new episode instead of the original animatic, because in the original animatic, it's kind of left a little bit more open-ended as to the whole thing with Echo. They know they've got plenty more down the pipeline. It's very apparent. It doesn't change much in terms of the wording, but it's that very much they kind of leave out more of Echo's part from the Separatist side of things. So it looks as though Trench doesn't know as much as he does as he's supposed to in the original animatic. And then when we get to the original opening, so I've got to bring this up here. So this is from the original animatic. When you get into the episode itself, it turns out that Mace Windu has the plan to start with to have the airdrop to go into the base itself, so the assembly plant, and take over. Because he said, in his own words, it's easier to fight our way out than it is to fight our way in. Of course, in the actual episode itself that we finally got, he doesn't have this idea. Echo rocks up, says, I can actually help you here. The dialogue after Rex goes up and speaks to him is exactly the same. So the episode then continues on as it was in the animatic, but it's led you to believe here that basically the whole play they start off in the introduction that they now have is they're questioning Echo's allegiances compared to in the original episode where it's just, it's Echo, he's back, everything's hunky-dory. In this particular finished episode, they are now questioning whether he is loyal to the Republic or because the Separatists have been inside his mind so much, whether that's affected him or not.
I prefer this version. I did like that they questioned his loyalty right throughout. Even really once the plan was afoot, they were still at all points kind of on the side that he might be selling us out. And I did like that take on it, that he was never fully one of them until the end of the mission, really, once he'd actually taken the shot from when it came back from Trench that took that, where was it, put the data point to his arm. I really liked that was the untrustworthiness, especially the Bad Batch seemed to really be untrustworthy. So for him then to end up as one of them as well was a really nice touch.
Indeed, there is one other minor change in the episode itself, which actually lends itself to that, is when Echo is in the Separatist ship and he's plugged in, he goes, okay, we need to, so it's saying, this signal going to Skako Minor for the information for the algorithm. Tech says in the animatic, right, okay, you need to change this so that we have it that you're still on Skako, so they think you're there. Echo just goes, great idea. And that's in the animatic. In the actual episode, it's that little bit more backwards and forwards between Echo and Tech, that distrust, that underlying, do we really know who you're serving here? And it is actually played on more heavily in the episode. There's not really much other changes throughout the episode itself. That stays relatively the same. It's just that one minor detail there that changes. But as you said, I like that undertone that they just don't trust who he is.
I loved the untrustworthiness of Echo. If Mace Windu had turned up with a plan, they definitely would not have included Echo. That's just the way the Jedi were. Yeah. You want to get into canon and trustworthy, whatnot. The fact it was Echo's
idea.
Especially
he trusts nobody.
Exactly, and it raises tension for those moments with Trench, because I thought, not to sort of get stereotypical, but you've seen it in so many films. Oh, he's being controlled by the villains the entire time, and he will betray them, and it won't be his fault. And I was expecting that. And the way they edited it made it out it would be exactly like that until Echo did overthrow them. And I really enjoyed that. I thought that helped ease a bit of tension. And I think that kind of completed the character arc of Echo for me as well. That, okay, like he's kind of beaten the system. Like he's not appalling the games. There's no, God, what film is it? Where, there's so many of them. Literally, you think the guy's on your side the entire time and they press a button and suddenly he's turned on them. Even like Fast and Furious films did it.
It's also that Winter Soldier aspect of
that's the one. That's the one. Winter Soldier is the best one by a mile. Not Fast and Furious. But no, I thought again it helped ease tension. It helped build up Echo, and also it made the Separatist faders look better. And again, the Windu dynamic of it wasn't the Jedi's plan, it was the clones' plan, and they didn't break through. To me, that meant a lot better for each of their character developments.
Indeed, Dave.
Definitely. Yeah, it's just the same. I think it just played out so much better. The untrustworthiness of Windu is great because we know it's a character trait that he actually has in the movies as well. So I do find that as a nice through line throughout this, that they can't trust this clone, and it was just really well played out.
Yeah, indeed. And of course, then we get into the meat of the episode itself. I do love this shot here, which I'm going to bring up now for those in the audio. Oh, no, this is before that. Oh, you haven't got that. I thought you had that picture. I do love the part when they finally break into the assembly itself, and you have Master Windu standing there going, "Hi, I'm Jedi Master Windu. I have dismantled over 100,000 of you during the Clone Wars. I'll give you an opportunity just to put down your guns, and then we can reprogram you, or you can just die. Here's your choice." And of course, they then blast the crap out of them. But I love that line. I just love that play. I thought it was so brilliant.
It feels like an actual Samuel L. Jackson movie moment that they put it in. Like he's going to have a speech before he starts something. To me, when you see it, it's like, that's like a Pulp Fiction sort of moment where he's going to say something to all these droids. But no, it was a nice moment, that one as well. I like it.
I mean, when you've got lines in like, this party's over, walking into the Emperor's, Palpatine's chambers, and is it kind of in the character of Mace Windu, beheads Jango Fett and gives a snivelling look to his son after?
Yeah, it's properly in the Windu arc.
Yeah. So I did like that, but I loved the moment. It was in the trailer when all the droids closed in on them. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna say disappointed because I'm happy with what we got, but I was expecting some kind of. Do you guys remember the original Tarkovsky Clone Wars?
Yeah, when Windu took out all those droids.
Yeah, I kind of thought, like, oh my word, are we about to get like the Mace Windu we saw sort of 15 years ago? And okay, we didn't, which was fine. But I was just the setup of putting them at sort of tension. And I love the fact that Obi-Wan Kenobi has his soldiers in their Utapau ready costumes. Again, looking to the future, looking at being very close to Episode 3, makes sense.
Indeed, it does. It's one of those things that they are kind of, they have to tie things together as nice and neatly as possible. And again, another thing it kind of lends itself towards the ending of the episode, towards Episode 3, is this moment here with Anakin when he finally comes across Admiral Trench when they've discovered the bomb in the basement of the assembly plant, and Anakin needs to get the final piece of the puzzle so they can stop the bomb going off, and it's proper overtones of Episode 3 Anakin of just not giving a damn and going up to Admiral Trench, especially the line of your nobility, yes, you're a Jedi, your nobility
of the Jedi,
yeah. It's like, I have no such weaknesses. It's just brutality. They just stabbed him through the chest. Cool, got the number, done. You're done now. You're a discarded asset.
That was maybe my favorite moment in the series so far. It's the fact that the moment that door opens and Anakin walks in, you know that only one of them is walking out, and you know exactly who that is. And I loved it because it also demonstrates his attachment. The fact that because clones' lives are at stake, you know he's got that in him, that extra. We don't want the bombs to cover on people to die, but everyone's lives are at risk, and Trench is going to go. And when he chopped his arms off, I was like, oh, Trench probably realized, so I'm done soon. And then just the death was just amazing.
I like the played him being a spider as well, with the arms kind of like curling up in the middle before they eventually just flop. But
I really liked Trench. I thought as a Clone Wars villain, as someone that didn't make it into the films, they've been very hit or miss, a lot of the villains, but he is someone they did keep bringing back. And I think he deserved a death on screen in the sense of...
He's by far my favourite of the Clone Wars only villains, for sure.
Yeah, and it's one of them where, if he'd not have died on screen, you'd have been like, where was he in Episode 3? Not to get into that kind of, this, that, but there's probably a lot of other villains that were in the first 5 seasons who we didn't care about. We didn't ask whether they were in Episode 3, but Trench is obviously high up with the Separatists. He's done enough to warrant having a character track being finished. And I think being killed by Anakin's a great thing because we know we're close to Episode 3. Like, Anakin needs that mindset of, we've seen it before, his interrogation tactics of choking people. Maybe he doesn't back down, but it's that kind of gentle reminder The only thing needed would have been like sometimes in Clone Wars they used to always play the sort of the Imperial March, like very sort of.
They did that at the very end of the episode, but not they could have done it in that scene though.
Yeah, and it's like you expect stuff like that. So again, it builds towards this is the final season of Clone Wars, so we have to be at episode 3. I know I keep saying it, but it's important to say it because it connects these. Because we know this arc wasn't ever meant to be near the ending of Clone Wars, but they've rewritten and made some changes where it's put exactly in the right place with things that can go on. Obviously, we're going to find out from next week onwards what does happen next and whatnot. But I think, obviously, from the changes you guys have told me, as someone that hadn't seen the original episodes, most of these changes have been for the better. Even if I've not been a fan of some of the episodes, it's definitely put things in the right direction. Again, we spoke a lot about the Obi-Wan moment of Anakin. Again, perfect reminder of what's about to happen. And we've got this as well, the attachment stuff. So I think this episode is another great Anakin thing. And we spoke so many times before about how much the Clone Wars has done for the character of Anakin Skywalker, how it's really helped build that character.
Well, to me, it helps link that bit in episode 3 at the very start, where it's that they're doing their job so we can do ours. It's that attachment there that
exactly. And the one thing I will say at the moment is that Obi-Wan comes across as quite cruel in episode 3 when he says that across the Clone Wars. He doesn't have that. He's very much with them than against them. But in that precise moment, that again is just the split of Anakin and Obi-Wan. What differs from them is the attachment stuff. But I thought Trench's death, it was a great death for a villain like him. Again, these are in theory Saturday morning cartoons. It was the kind of death that a Saturday morning cartoon deserves, and in the Star Wars lore, go out to Anakin Skywalker. It's a lot better than they've beaten me, my ship blows up like 10 minutes later, that kind of stuff. But no, lightsaber straight through the chest, you're done. Great way to go.
Indeed, Dave.
It's my favorite moment of the episode by far. I love the foreshadowing of this dark side just dripping through Anakin Skywalker. That line that you said when Trench mentions your Jedi nobility will keep you from causing really any harm, and just that look in his face when he says, "I have no such weakness," is just like a full-on chills moment. Like, oh, this is the downfall of Anakin Skywalker in the movies is very quick because they don't have all the time to play with. I don't think they did enough in episode 2. Yes, it's the killing of the Tuscans, but I don't think there's enough kind of building of that. Like George said, Clone Wars gave so much more character to Anakin, and it really let you see slips into the dark side. And this is one of my favorite. And I loved every few seconds of that the framing, the look in his face was absolute perfection for me. Favorite moment by far, maybe of the entire Clone Wars. And I just loved it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it also harks back to when he kills the mayor from the Mandalorian arc, where he's just that whoever kills me is branded a cold-blooded killer, and Anakin just stabs him to the chest from behind. Is that level of just he doesn't give anything. He is just there going, nope, this is how it needs to be. There are absolutes. He's dealing with them going, no, this is how it needs to be. You're going to hurt my friends. Therefore, there are consequences.
I think the Mandalorian episode, it's a comedic moment. Like, we know the serious undertones and we know the foreshadowing, but I also, as a very ironic, and that's the point, it's an ironic comedic moment and sort of quote after.
Yeah.
It works for the earlier seasons. He couldn't have had a quip, a week for episode 3. He's been fighting a war for 3 years and he's just had enough. He wants to get home to his wife.
He's tired by this point. He's just had enough, yeah.
Yeah, and Trench is probably, as well, the smartest separatist of them all.
Yeah.
I mean, far from that.
I think had Grievous had died and Trench been in episode 3, I think the Clone Wars have lasted a couple more weeks at least. But no, I thought it was great. It was a great moment.
It also then ties back to the second episode where you have that moment with Anakin and Padme. It's like, you've been away for so long. He's like, he knows he wants to get back, and this is his last bit he needs to do. But then again, also another comedic moment afterwards where he finds the self-destruct button and gives it to Wrecker. Wrecker's going to love this. Because we had the whole bit going back to the ship. That then going back to that Saturday morning cartoon style where it's showing each other up. So Wrecker just bulldozes through a bunch of them. Crosshair puts a bunch of mirrors up, shoots through all of them, and then of course Wrecker gets to blow up the ships at the end. It's that very nice one-upmanship. It's kind of it's a fun moment to kind of take you back from the brink, but it's really cool how they played that in with the episode as well before we get to the ending, which of course they have changed.
I would like to quickly raise one fun thing at Anakin.
Sure.
So in the Clone Wars, when he first meets Padme, we have the obviously I'm pregnant line, but before that we've got the, there are rumors that you died. Do we think we're going to get that? I mean, not that line, but surely, to me, I mean, not that, it's not about what I want and stuff, but I would love, even if it's a scene or chance of being like Padme, or we've heard Anakin's died, or if there is something that's going to happen between now and episode 3, and you could just get one scene on Coruscant of Padme thinking he's dead, that would again just cement it, because Clone Wars is kind of filling in all these gaps. And we do need to see Anakin save Obi-Wan 10 times, but it's the little.
Well, we know that business on Cater Morty doesn't count.
Yeah, it's like how you read the episode, the crawl for episode 4. Oh, rebel spies have stolen the plans. You think, we got to that film like that, brilliant, Rogue One, and it's just a little, a
little throwaway line that needs a nice little bit of a plug, and I reckon we'll get that. I do reckon we'll get that in the next few episodes,
because that'd be a great sort of Palpatine scheming thing too. But we've got. I mean, we'll know we're at the end of this first arc, and I think I kind of said the same thing last week. We don't know how many episodes long the final arc is going to be. It could be 4, it could be 6. I think you guys mentioned we're going to have a throw episode with Ahsoka to put her in place for what comes. But I think Siege of Mandalore could be 6 episodes. Or 4 and have a sort of epilogue of 2 to really smack home with episode 3. But I'm very, very intrigued where we are in the timeline now and when we're going to hit that overlap button.
Indeed. Well, we do know one thing for sure. So moving on to the end of the episode, we do know for sure that in the original animatic, there were plans to have the Bad Batch come back. There's actually unfinished, it's even more unfinished, was an animatic of them on Kashyyyk. This now no longer will take place purely from the ending we had. So in the original animatic ending, it's mentioned in the episode itself that they have medals coming their way. In the original animatic, they don't get that line. You actually have the small medal ceremony itself. It was the same address, the line's still the same. Mace Windu says the same thing to the clones that he says to them in the animatic. It's just presented in a very different way. In the original animatic, you have all the clones stand to attention. You actually have a full-on medal ceremony. And the episode ends, again, with the same Imperial March overtone. However, it's just them looking over Echoes. He finally has his medal, it pans up and it's done. In the finished episode, of course, we actually have this ending where you have Echo running off to join with the Bad Batch themselves. And it's kind of a very different take on the episode because, of course, at this point, in the original animatic, we then know he's supposed to go to Kashyyyk, they'll see the Bad Batch again. I don't think we'll see them again. I think this is them done. I think this is their sign-off piece. We may get a throwaway line somewhere down the line in the next few episodes that they're dead, but I'm not quite sure. But I do like this new ending, I have to admit.
I think this ending's great. Dave mentioned to me before we hit record that the original ending has the ceremony. It just wouldn't work for clones. The whole point of Clone Wars is to make them individuals, not sort of faceless, like a faceless army. I get a medal ceremony does that, but how many millions of medal ceremonies are they going to need after every victory? Like, it just seemed not different, not wrong, but it didn't suit the Clone Wars as a show ceremonies for the clones. And not the fact of just in 1917, so there's obviously loads of like war clones, ribbons, medals, all that kind of stuff. It's not really a Star Wars thing except in episode 4. I'm not going to sit there and say, I mean, I love it in 4, it's great for this, but you don't need more medals ceremonies. And
But episode 4 has the punch of, because they've just had their first major victory.
Yeah, like it's
get rid of the Death Star.
I mean, episode 4, like there's no criticism at all. Like it's great, but ceremonies just don't suit Clone Wars and what it is. Like the reality is that they're getting sent straight to another planet to do another fight, as it has been for the previous 6 seasons. So giving them a one-off medal ceremony to me just doesn't work. And
but the little line itself of there are medals coming your way. That's it. That's all you need.
Nice not even that. It's just kind of the concept of a clone with medals that I don't know. Again, it's just me being a bit weird and protective over sort of. I've never seen this before. I don't like change. I know it sounds like that, but to crop up a medal line in season 7 is very strange. Like, I don't mind again. Anakin in the prequels, have your day with the politicians. Like, that's fine. That's his little reward. But medals is just strange. I'm very happy feeling we got them saluting, joining the Bad Batch, and saying cheerio. I didn't think that would happen until it did happen. The moment when they kind of join us, like, okay, I know where this is going to go. Because last week, I hope they all died, and still not post that because I know they're not in future Star Wars. It's very much like Rogue One. When Rogue One was announced, my initial thought was I hope they will die in the nicest way possible, and I did not expect them all to die. So they will always have that over me. I think Gareth Edwards has said I never thought they'd let me kill them all.
Yeah.
And Bad Batch, it worked. And I'm very curious. I don't think they'll crop up, but if they did, curious at least.
So interesting comment here, and I'd like to actually get your thought on this one, George, for saying from Serenity Forever 25, and that's Robin saying, giving the clones medal shows the Jedi value them and think of them as people. I think that's more of a Anakin thing than a Jedi thing, maybe. But I wonder what your thought on that one is.
I mean, I think the Jedi have valued them. Even Mace Windu likes to protect the clones at times. You know, get your troops out of here and stuff. No sort of throwaway lines like grievances of droids. I don't think you need the medals. I think Clone Wars as a show has developed that opinion, and that's done it naturally without any, if every Clone Wars arc finished with a medal ceremony, it'd be a bit like a running joke, but it's war, like, not get on with it. That sounds wrong. Don't mean to say that, but I'm not trying to criticize it either. I just think medals didn't suit the clones. Does that sound
Agreed. You don't need the pomp and circumstance. They never had that.
Yeah.
That wasn't the point of the army.
And
the point of the army was...
And the show's developed these clones so well. Even throwaway lines of dialogue. Episode 1, when you've got Rex looking at the foe of his dead sort of mates. The line in the trailer, we were bred for this, don't know what to think. Things like that can do a lot more than a ceremony. For example, I'm not trying to nitpick, but if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. It also ties up really nice and neatly. Sorry, go on, Dave. Yeah.
I was going to say, for me, it feels like where the clones were and with the medals and the Jedi valuing them, I think they very much valued the higher ups, like your Rex, like your Cody. But outside of those few, I don't think they felt that way. I think the rest were just soldiers that were needed and required for numbers. And I think outside of those main few, that they wouldn't have cared less, to be honest. Is my take on it.
Yeah, which is how I feel. But that's the interesting point when you have Pon Krell in the Umbaran arc, who really does just see them as numbers. And he even refers to Rex by his number, but not by his name. Whereas some Jedi have that more of attachment. It's the difference between the Jedi who were brought up in the war, who became knights during the war, the Padawans who were trained during the war, and those who have been around before the war. That attachment, that differentiating between a person. So looking at a clone as a person rather than looking as a clone as a soldier. The helmets help distinguish those between those who have names and those who don't, and it's that very interesting kind of just the opposed look between the two of them. But I do think that, again, I agree with you, George, the show itself has done enough to show the attachment rather than having individualism.
Definitely. Sorry.
Yeah. Again, apparently we have seen clones get medals in the show before, but again, that's something that I was somewhere in the back of my memory bank somewhere, but I don't know exactly where it is. I mean, George, you have seen you are the one out of the three of us, the one who's watched it the most recently. Do you remember such an occurrence?
I don't remember. It was a blur rewatching 121 episodes. I don't remember that. I'm sorry.
Indeed, but to be fair, again, it's a nice little throwback. It doesn't need to be in there, but I'm glad it is anyway. At least that little line of there are medals for you in the future. At least we know where they're going. But I like the ending. I like the fact that Echo goes and joins the Bad Batch. I like the salute being the end, the overtone of the Imperial March, just the actual general tie-in. These first 4 episodes were the soft relaunch, as it were, for the show, with it being yes, story arc we had before, but of course they put in these minor changes, all of which I think have been for the best. I don't think they've missed on a single one of these changes. I think all of them have been for the better of the show and for where the show needs to end up as well, especially with it only being 12 episodes before we get episode 3. That being said, I just want more of it, damn it. Why 12 episodes?
It's going to be a real shame when it gets to the end of these 12 episodes. It's been love jumping back on. This one, to me, as I said, was probably the most Clone Wars episode I've felt since we started back, and I really enjoyed it. Start to finish, had me entertained. The 22 minutes absolutely flew over. Finished out the arc nicely.
Yeah, apparently that medal ceremony was in Rookies, which actually, yeah, does blow back. But that's also the very beginning of the Clone Wars itself. So it's that.
Episode 1.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I'm the same as you, Dave, with the looking forward to. I think the arcs, it's done itself well. It's put you in the right position moving forwards, and I'm ready to see what comes next. Now we're out of the familiar, I guess we can also say. We know inklings of what's going to happen via canon, via books, via Rebels. We know some sort of path, but now we're going to get that, and obviously we know what happens in episode 3. But yeah, I'm very much looking forward to it. Only 5 more days till it begins.
Indeed.
Can't wait.
So that's the thing. So these first 4 episodes back. Now, of course, I'd seen the animatics a couple of times. Dave's seen them before once. George, I know you've not seen them. So I want to ask you, George, do you, as someone who hadn't seen the animatics, do you think this was a good launch into what's to come?
I think it's okay. I think because I knew it was because I knew it had been released previously, it had been written a long time ago. These were always kind of the, when I spoke to my friends who want to watch, I was like, you don't have to watch the first 4 episodes weekly. So you can wait for the first 4 because they are out there. They're not going to have the impact. So I'm okay with the start. As someone that's obviously rewatched the series recently, I'm not going to sort of sit here and say, this is a fantastic, well, it's not a bad beginning, but I'm not going to sit and say this is the best arc I've seen that can launch us in the direction. This is one of those arcs, so it's fine. There's some good episodes, some bad episodes. It's not god awful droids and weird on a weird planet by themselves for 4 episodes, but it's also not some like Geonosis or the Citadel. So I'm okay with what we've got. I've enjoyed them. I think it's the nicest way of saying it. But I'm very much, as we said before, this was the starter. I'm kind of waiting on the main course, which we
it wasn't a bad batch of episodes.
Hey.
But at least it's not the Mortis trilogy. That's all I can say on that one.
Stern look at you right there.
Indeed, but we know we know that next week's episode is the kind of soft Ahsoka episode, kind of catching up on where she's been. We don't know much more than that. We know from the trailers that she does a bit of wall running. That's about it.
I mean, they do it in Fallen Order, so it is going to be nice to see wall running somewhere else. It's like Baby Yoda. It was like in the Mandalorian in the morning, it was like, oh, cool, Baby Yoda just force healed someone. Midnight that same day, episode 9. Oh, look, force heal. I saw that this morning. At least like wall running, we're going to get it twice. Like, I do like it when you see something done more than once because at least it has happened before and it will happen again. So I'm intrigued to see where Ahsoka. I've not read the Ahsoka book. I don't know much. I've kept away from tidbits.
Yeah, after the Clone Wars has finished, I do recommend you go back and go read that book, mate. It is very good. For those of you, again, just to put it out there, who are watching this episode but have not read the book, who are interested, don't read it until you've seen these episodes coming up, because there are spoilers for what happens to her. But afterwards, please go read it because it is a very
Rebels
good
too.
book. And Rebels too, yes. But it is a very, very
and Dave Filoni's Twitter feed.
Just stay clear.
Yes.
Contain yourself away from people. That seems to be the order of the day. So,
but no, I'm excited. I'm intrigued, and we've got an episode on Wednesday, which is going to be fun.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about a lot of cancellations of stuff.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, at least the one thing we know, we won't be cancelled because, well, what do we do anyway? We sit inside and talk about Star Wars. Nothing's going to change. It's absolutely great. It's nothing says fine. But yes, closing thoughts on the episode, though, guys.
I very much enjoyed it. Great final episode to a story arc. Ready for the next one.
Yeah, Dave.
Yeah, again, loved it. Favorite episode, the 4 by a country mile. Again, looking forward to what we're going to get next. I'm looking forward to seeing something new.
Yeah, I mean, same here. I mean, this is my favorite episode of the 4 by far. Although give me the 4 in total, I love all the little changes. As I said, I think from someone who's seen the animatics and the episodes and gone back and double checked, I think all these little changes are for the better. I think the episodes are better off for it. I also, again, love the new animation style. I think it's fantastic in terms of the quality now is just off the hook. Very good set of episodes. It was a solid set for those who have seen the animatics, we kind of knew where it's going. So it's a good, solid starting platform. And I am very, very much looking forward to sitting here with you guys this time next week to talk about the brand new episode. I can't remember what the title is off the top of my head, but for a new Clone Wars arc to begin. And I think that's about it for this evening. I think any closing thoughts, guys? Or are you just about done?
I think I've said all I can, yeah.
Indeed, this has been a very fun episode to do, I must admit. There's a lot to talk about, and it was very good to sit here and not have to try and drag it out because we all had some nice opinions this week for once. But yes, as per usual, all I want to say is thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Ones the Force of Star Wars Podcast, at the Force Podcast. You can find the video for this later on our Facebook and YouTube pages. And of course, you can find the audio version on our Podbean, Stitcher, Spotify, and iTunes. Our merchandise, of course, is available in the link in the description below, nicely worn by Dave in that particular box there. But until next time, we've been Ones of the Force. May the Force be with you. Good night.